Our ride continues with the penultimate day of this $1,000 book promotion ad stacking test. It has been a day of sliding. This data is totally unlike the last 3 days. We'll dig into it, but some other things that were interesting happened. Again, Amazon rolled out yet another update to the KDP beta dashboard, adding a lot of filtering options, which is great on the desktop. Again, not so great on the mobile, which is where I was taking most of the screenshots. But that's just regular everyday activity for Amazon. As far as the data, you can see very small amount came in. In fact, let's just go back here and you can see in total 224. So again, if we're looking day by day, day one was 4,253, and I do have the price filter on, so these are only free. In the screenshots, again, because it's on mobile, this is always 6 higher. Day 2, 1,378 downloads. We also got some sales on that day. Day 3, 389. And day 4, 224. And something else unique about today happened. We had the first hour with 0 downloads. We also had a failure of a file. I took a screenshot. I took 2 screenshots. I took one of the Author Central sales rank. That worked and uploaded just fine. And I also took a snapshot of the KDP dashboard, but it didn't save or upload. Now I looked at the number, because I've been looking at these numbers and subtracting by 6, and I thought, oh, that's the first time we've had an even number since earlier that day, 100 or more. So I'm confident in this number, but alas, of the now 60 data points, there is no proof of that one. Again, this is just regular everyday activity when you're dealing with data. Missing data is a real problem. I also added one more visualization based on this data, which I've updated. Again, this comes from the KDP dashboard right down here. I saw 2 more book promotion emails go out this evening. I think they were tied to Book Armadillo. And after that 1 hour lull where there was nothing, so this hour lull where there was nothing, I really thought that was going to continue, in fact, until about 10:15. So this snapshot is taken at 10:35, I think-ish. Yeah, 10:34. By the way, the file naming in these folders, and I am not going to go back and clean it up, but I don't know what is going on with Android, but sometimes it names it like this. Sometimes it just takes the straight file time shot. But every time you can still figure out what the time is by looking at the numbers. So this was at 10:34. Maybe 15 minutes before this, it was still hovering at 6,237. And I thought, hey, if we have 2 consecutive hours with no downloads, it's pretty clear we're coming to the end. And so I said this is the penultimate day, because tomorrow there is still a free book promotion. But the slide out of the top 100 store, that started in the morning. The slide from the number 1 position in all the subcategories has started. I'm still holding on in a few, but it went from 10 or 9 throughout most of this test to 3 or 4, and I don't think I'm in the number 1 spot in more than 1 or 2 right now. I haven't checked in a few hours. But the numbers just kept sliding, and I thought, if this is going on and on like this, tomorrow I may not even collect data. Then I saw that one email, those 2 emails go out, and there was an uptick. We'll see how much of that uptick continues on throughout the night, but this data is accurate as of 10:35 p.m., same snapshot, 6,244, holding strong. And so I visualized this, I added this visual. So let's just go through the data chart by chart. So one of the things I did to call out the fact that these are 10-hour bumps, which the more I thought about it after last night, I was kind of arguing with myself on the recording. I do think that when this is done, I probably will smooth this, and I'm not sure what imputation is the term modeling I'm going to use. I could just take the 10 hours and whatever the amount of downloads, divide it and spread it evenly, but that's not really how it's been behaving. It's been behaving in a decreasing manner. So I might try to reflect that accurately in the data, but I have 10 hours here, 10 hours here, 10 hours here. One of the other things that that's going to do, and you witnessed some of this confusion in last night's video, was is related to just how small these titles are getting. So 2 of the charts were correct. I believe last night it was just this one that was missing a few. It just wasn't referencing the full column of data. That was not actually true. After the video I went to correct it. That wasn't true of this visual, and it wasn't true of this visual. They were showing. But it's getting so hard to read what's going on down here. And so remember, if I do disaggregate these 3 data points, in which there will be a 4th tonight, that adds 40 more hours of data. So this goes right now from where it's at with 60 rows of data. We're going to be adding 10 hours for 4 days. So we're going to be adding 40 more rows. So it's going to get to the point where it's just not readable. So I think there maybe has to be two steps to this process. If I decide to disaggregate these 4 data points, the other one that's about to happen overnight now, I may end up having to also then group into 2-hour increments instead of 1-hour increments. And I'm a little hesitant to do that. We're back to the trade-off. Which is the better approach to take to understanding the data? Is it better to just have these bumps and know that they're overnight bumps and just move on with our lives? I colored them in all the charts. Right, you can see them in red to call them out. By the way, one other thing that I've done is add coloring down here on the tabs so that it's very clear. Here's the book promotion tab. Here's 2 tabs of data. That's why they're green. And here are the charts, which are then in yellow. So one of the reasons the trade-off doesn't make sense to me to disaggregate that and expand it out by 40 more observations is there are some hour-by-hour trends that may disappear or may look contrary to the actual pattern. So it's not just a straightforward, let's disaggregate and be done with it. There are some things, especially in this chart, some of these patterns, these up and downs, they're going to kind of just get more uniform. But they come, that's the cost. The benefit is these giant red tower spikes go away. But again, if you know what these are, it doesn't matter. So you've seen just this constant declining, this hovering very low with a little spike in the morning again, and then this first hour of no downloads. Here's the new visual that I added. So you can see the dominance of the United States, 80%. This isn't really quite the Pareto principle, even though the United States represents 80%, because there are, I think, 13 countries here. But the other thing that you should take from this visual, this is a donut chart, so these are all the proportions. If you highlight, and because you have the link, you'll be able to use these interactive charts. So you can come in, you don't have to, it's not like a picture. You can come in and hover over things, it will tell you both the counts and the percentages. But the dominance of the English-speaking world in the downloads is maybe not surprising. I'm not sure. But I'm surprised by how many other countries I've had downloads in. This is really encouraging for me because I've been so tunnel vision focused on just launching, and I went narrow to start, so I'm only on KDP. I went on Kindle Unlimited with Subsumption. I did not do that with Coverted and Disclosure, even though they're on Amazon. I could go wide with those, but I did that largely so that I could offer those 2 books for free through my website. I could accomplish that same thing because they are for charge on Amazon. In fact, that's the only money that we've made so far during this challenge, other than page reads, which, by the way, page reads are also up quite a bit today compared to the other days. So that was, of all the interesting patterns, this one runs contrary. Everything's been sliding down, this one's been sliding up. But I could go wide with those 2 short story prequels. One's a novella, so Coverted's a novella. It's almost 40,000 words, so it's just about there at novel length. Disclosure is a short story or a noveletta. It's about 13 or 14,000 words. I could take those, put them up on Kobo and Google Books and Apple Books, and then set them as 0 and have Amazon price match. But like I said, I've had tunnel vision because I, like many of you, only have so many hours in the day. And I've been looking at this as sort of incremental steps. And one of the things I'm going to walk away from this challenge or this test, having learned, is the ability, at least, to get into these foreign markets. And Amazon has also been rolling out recently some updates to their Amazon Ads services, so AMS, where previously it was very hard because you had to have lots of different accounts for all the different markets. They're bringing that into one system. I don't think that is totally done yet, but there's at least some interest. People were alerted that this book existed. They looked at it. They looked at the cover. They read the description or the blurb, and they decided, you know what, I want to give it a shot. Now, this was for free, so there wasn't a big friction point there. But maybe with ads, I can expand this, and the next time I run this with a different set of, or the larger set of book promotion sites, like I'm going to do the BookBub, like I said last night, and then in March do the BookBub, and all of these again. Maybe I will see some of these grow if I have been marketing a little bit more in those territories. So, takeaways from today: things slid quite a bit. The data has continued to grow. Let's go back to the goals. First goal was reached on day 2, very early in day 2. Everything since then has just been nice icing on the cake. An additional 1,200, almost 1,300 downloads. Maybe by tomorrow we might, I think at this rate, might. I mean, look, these are so low. Remember, this is the rate of change. So this is the rate of downloads, hour over hour, of new downloads to the total, given the past total. So this is, again, the totals. But it's just gotten so low. So if I continue this, let's say 5 an hour, I might get 100 tomorrow. So I think the way the data is looking right now, as far as predictions go, if I get to 6,300, that'll be a good final tally. Maybe because there's a couple more emails and things going out. Like I said, some of the promotions continue through till tomorrow. Maybe it gets to 6,400, but that's probably definitely going to be the cap. As far as the second goal, getting in the top 100, this has, or getting to the number 1 in the free store, that goal went away yesterday when the rankings started to fall. Then they climbed for a little bit, and then they started to fall. They've just continued to fall. So overnight, I dropped out of the top 100 in the free Kindle store. So this is 8:30. By 2:30, it was at about 113. And then by about 5:30, so look at this difference where I was holding at 102 for quite a while throughout the day. Then it went to 113. Then it dropped to 137 within just a few hours. Then it dropped to 172 within a few hours. And then it dropped to 215. So it just started dropping quickly. So the question that I had yesterday, at what level, going back to this data, at what level of downloads per hour can you stay? Now, these are the overall rankings, but can you stay at some position in the overall rankings and then within the subcategories? So despite the slide today, it's been relatively positive still in the subcategories. Like I said, in many of them, at least in half of them for half the day, it was still number 1. In the others, where it had fallen out of the number 1 spot, remember it's in 10 categories, it was either in the 2nd, 3rd, or 5th position. So it was still pretty high. It was still on the first page. It was often still in the first row. But that's only translating since there's so little book marketing now happening from any of the promotion sites. This is, I think, a good indication of what the organic results of just being at the top of those free charts looks like. 5 to 10 downloads per hour. So as far as that second goal of number 1 in the overall Kindle store, it's gone until the next challenge. It'll be interesting to see if BookBub can accomplish that. I've heard that BookBub will probably get somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000. So it may be that the BookBub challenge in late January, I keep saying challenge, but test is probably the better word. The BookBub test may result with the same amount of total downloads. But if they all happen in a real big burst, since it's all from BookBub, then maybe that's enough to push it up to the number 1 spot. I kind of suspect it won't. I think maybe I'll break into the top 20, maybe even the top 10, with BookBub alone. But I do think that that March experiment or test with all of the ad stacking, BookBub plus all of those from this test, has a very good shot of accomplishing that second goal of getting to #1 in the free store. But as far as momentum, another thing that I'm definitely going to walk away, and I was talking about this a little bit last night, and I think it's really been affirmed, that 2-day window is where most of the activity is going to happen. You can squeeze out a little bit more on the third, and it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just do a 1-day promotion. And so this is why I think the best practice advice is divide up your 5 days into a 2-day campaign and a 3-day campaign, where that third day on the second campaign is just kind of a throwaway. But the data is starting to take a final form, which is nice. I didn't modify columns today. I didn't add anything new other than that visual, which was already built on data that was there. So tomorrow, the final day, final stretch, I think will be pretty calm, relatively stable at this low level of 0-ish% rate of change with 5-ish downloads per hour. And I think by maybe even midday, it may just go back to almost 0. But time will tell. That's the wonderful thing about data. We can set our hypothesis tonight, and tomorrow we'll find out if we're right. We'll keep this going, and I'll see you tomorrow.